Hey there guys, how's it going? Today, in this video, I'll be discussing what it takes to become a better player in Magic. Alright, so I'm discussing what it takes to become a better player in Magic. Now, it depends where you're at, because my assumption for this video is mostly directed towards players that are newer and players that are maybe have started, have played for a bit, but still are working on where they're at. But everyone and anyone can improve from where they're at. Even the most amazing players can get better. I can get better. Definitely, I'm sure I can get better. Sometimes I need the calculator to get a little bit better at knowing what I'm doing. And sometimes I'll say something and then I'll forget what I said and things like that. I'll be like 5 plus this plus whatever, and I'll say okay, that's whatever, and things like that. And then I'll go then this plus this, and then what did I say before? And everyone will go, we don't know, we weren't paying really attention or whatever. We weren't really following or whatnot. So again, it's always one of those things where no matter what, you can always get better. It's not always about making the most optimal play as well. It's one of those things about EDH where it's a bit more lax anyway, to be if it's CDH or the more competitive, then maybe it's a little bit more different. But again, for the most part, everything's chill, dude. And I've had those people that are I don't know whether that was the right play. I should have. Well, was it funny? Was it fun? Are you enjoying the game? Is this interesting, engaging? Is this taking up some of your time that what else would you be doing? Are you having fun with some people that you're out and about with? That's not the main focus here, dude. Do you like your deck? Do you think it's cool? Do you like my deck? Do you think my deck's cool? Do you like Steve's deck? Do you think his deck's, whatever, do you like Chelsea's deck? Do you think her deck's cool? Whatever, all these little things. But again, getting back to specifically what I'm talking about, that's the thing. Where are you at? Are you absolute beginner? What specific things do you need? And that's it. That's where you need to start. You need to start going, right, where are my shortcomings? Sort of thing. Can I shuffle my deck very easily? No. Okay, well, that's something that you can work on, because if you ever need to shuffle your deck and it takes a long time for you to shuffle your deck, or you have problems shuffling your deck, you're flipping and flopping cards everywhere and whatnot, or you shuffle cards upside down or backwards or things like this or whatnot, then that's something to work on. Again, I've said this a few times, I think, here and there, that when I started playing, even just with 60 card decks, I found it hard to shuffle, and I didn't really know how to shuffle, and it took me a fair while to learn how to shuffle fairly well. And that's just one of those things that it took a while for me to learn how to shuffle. And I even would have to apologize sometimes, because I would be playing more competitive stuff, to people to say, hey, look, I can't really shuffle that well. I am trying to learn how to shuffle, and I'll sort of, roughly shuffle. But again, I'm pretty bad at shuffling. So if you want to shuffle or you want to cut or whatever, go ahead. I'd always say that to people. Or if somebody would complain about my shuffling or whatnot, I'd say you can shuffle it or you can cut it or you can do whatever you want to do with it. I'm sorry, but I am still learning how to shuffle and whatnot, so please be a bit patient with me and things like that, and try to remind people, hey, I'm still learning or whatnot. And that's the thing, you can learn at your own pace. You don't have to be the best at everything 2 minutes ago. It's a process. You'll get better and better just by doing it. But again, that is something that you can work on, while you're just not doing anything, while you're waiting for people to stop, screwing around and actually come and sit down and actually play, shuffle your deck. Or while you're not doing anything, again, just start shuffling your deck, start, doing it, get into the rhythm, get into the habit of shuffling it a lot. if that's one of the things that you need to like do. Again, this is one of those things that I'll come back to as well, where I did this in a video fairly recently in the last couple of weeks, months or so, that I said, what if you shuffle your commander into your deck, or what if you shuffle your hand into your deck? That's one of those things you need to work on. Like, again, like I said, some tips, like maybe put your hand away, or put it underneath your commander, or put it somewhere else, or, you know, put it underneath your life counter, or sit under it, or whatever, you know, sit on it, or whatever, you know, like, whatever you need to do, put it in your back pocket, like, whatever you need to do. If you notice that you shuffle your hand into your deck a lot or whatnot, that's another symptom of you not being able to shuffle well, because, like, you'll know that, oh, I drop cards all the time, and then, or whatnot, if you start noticing, hey, wait a minute, did I have 5 lands on the battlefield? How do I only have 2 now? Like, suddenly you'll realize, oh, I've shuffled 2 of my lands that I had on my battlefield somewhere into my deck. Like, I just shuffled 2 of my lands that I actually had on the battlefield right into my deck, because I was like, dropped my deck or dropped part of my deck and then picked up those cards and didn't realize I had two more lands in my hand than what I should have had, or whatever. I shouldn't have picked them up, and they're probably backwards in the deck as well because they were up the other way or whatever. So I've just shuffled them in my deck. You know, things like that. So that's another thing that you know, can get better at. But, like, those are, like, I guess, the, I don't know, stock and standard parts of, like, gaming. Like, when you, you know, pull your deck out of your deck box or whatever, you know, and plop it onto the, you know, your playmat. Again, that's the whole thing of, like, be prepared. And maybe that's another one of those things that I probably should have said in that other video. I might just have to do that. But, you know, like, yeah, if you have all the things that you need, being prepared is one of those things that makes you a better player, because you're prepared. You know, I have a deck that makes zombies or whatever. Do I have zombie tokens? Oh, I don't have zombie tokens. Wait, why don't I have zombie tokens? Well, that's not me. That's me not being prepared and not having the things I need or whatever, and not being a good player, you know, because people aren't going to sit there and be like, every single turn, what's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? You know, oh, it's a zombie. Oh, it's a zombie. It's a zombie. It's a 2/2 zombie. I've got 2/2 zombies. You've got 2/2 zombies. Why are they wearing tutus? You know, things like this or whatever, you know. Whatever, you know. That's the thing. If you've got to keep explaining what something is or something represented on the battlefield and whatnot, because you haven't got the card, or you haven't got your token, or you haven't got whatever it is, XYZ, banana peel, whatever, you know, that's a problem. You know, be prepared. Have your deck, have your tokens, have your, you know, dice, have your +1 counters ready, things like this. So that's another way to be better at playing the game. Efficiency and speed are another thing at, like, playing the game. Now, sometimes, of course, as it is, there's decisions to be made in the game, but again, like, at the end of the day, you can only do so much as well. Like, at the end of the day, sometimes you've just got to go, well, look, I really need a board wipe right now, but I just don't have one. All I can do right now is try to protect myself as much as possible, because I don't know if somebody else is going to board wipe, but it looks like a board wipe is coming. But if a board wipe doesn't come, then what am I going to do? I've got to protect myself. If people are going to attack me, like, I don't want to die in the game. I want to live in the game. So I want to find a card that makes me a few blockers that I don't mind losing on the battlefield in the next few turns, just so I can block for a few turns. Like, if a board wipe happens, then that's fine, because I've only committed the thing that I would like to lose the most, like, in my hand. The thing that helped me block as many things as possible that I could use, I think 100-handed one or whatever it is, that card is really quite good in situations like this. Um, but also, like, board wipes are really good in that position too. Like, again, that's another thing about being a better player, knowing when you've got not quite enough removal or too much removal or whatnot. Like, I've got all this, like, single target kill spells. Yeah, sure, but somebody over there has about 1,000 creatures. I can't kill 1,000 creatures with, like, even all of these kill spells that I've got. I need a wrath. Like, that's what I need. Like, okay, so maybe that's a thing you need to do later, and before another game, be like, I'm going to take out one or two of these, single target kill spells and put in another board wipe or whatever, and see how I go then. Like, it's not the most fun thing to do sometimes, but again, just knowing, well, do I often find myself in the position of having that back foot or whatever? Am I constantly sitting there going, I'm always 2 or 3, 4 or 5 mana behind everyone else? I'm always sitting there going, geez, they've got a lot of stuff or whatever. Like, whoa, like, I don't mind if they're doing their thing or whatnot for the most part, but at a certain point, I need to protect myself. I need to try to win myself. So I need removal for what they're doing at a certain point, because otherwise it's just lethal to me, it's lethal to Steve, and if me and Steve are dead in the game, or whatever, like, how can I win if everyone's like dead? Like, then Alan's won, or whoever's won. That other person has won, not me. I wanted to win. And sometimes that's all right. You just shuffle up and play again, but again, it's one of those things. So, getting back to it, speed and efficiency when you're taking your turn, like, and announcing things is sometimes like a little bit of one of those things that people forget or people don't do and whatnot. And sometimes it's pretty irrelevant, like, to do, and sometimes people just aren't paying attention anyway, so it's hard to announce everything as well. So, like, just and planning out your turn or planning out what you're going to do if you pass or whatever. Are you going to, like, first thing, like, do you have creatures on the board that can attack? Like, right now, can you get in for damage? Like, that's one of the biggest things. Like, okay, I can't really get in for damage right now, so because it's either yes or no, or I can only get in with these, one or two things, whatever, because they're flyers or whatever, or because they're really big or whatever, and they have trample or whatever. No one has anything really scary that can block it. So it's either yes or no, pretty much, if you can, like, get in there for damage with your attackers. So focus on that. If you've, drawn your card and you play land for your turn, then, you can go to that point of going, do I want to attack anyone? Who can I attack if I attack somebody? How can I get in for an attack, whatnot? And then make that decision. You can make it on decisions, like, when you, like, before you take your turn. Like, okay, I noticed that Steve, or whatever, played a Death Touch creature. Okay, I don't want to attack Steve this turn because he's got a Death Touch creature. So I'm not going to attack him because, well, I just don't want my big 6/6 to die to a Death Toucher or whatever. Like, I just don't want that to happen, so maybe I'll attack Alan or whatever. Because Alan doesn't have a Death Toucher. Maybe he has some random, tokens or whatever. What have you. Or maybe Alan is the biggest threat, who knows? Or maybe Steve's the biggest threat, but still I can't really super duper attack him until I deal with his Death Toucher, because I just don't want to lose my creature to his Death Toucher unless it has trample or something else, whatever. But again, I just don't want to super duper lose it. Or if I do lose it, I want to go, okay, cool, I lost it, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to, after that, combat has ended, in my second main phase, I'm going to cast a reanimating spell and bring my creature back to the battlefield for, like, 1 or 2 mana or whatever. Or even bring it back to my hand for, same thing, 1 or 2 mana, what have you, and then recast it, so that, gets around it having died, and I dealt some damage, or maybe drawn some cards or whatever, and I'm, maybe back roughly in the same position, but again, what I did, did make an impact. I got rid of the Death Toucher, which I didn't really want that person to have, and I, chipped their life total down, which is another thing that I wanted to do. Maybe I drew some cards or something else happened when I attacked or when I did damage or whatever. You don't know exactly what cards. I don't know exactly what cards and whatnot are going to ever be played, so it does depend. So maybe nothing happened at all, but again, maybe you did some damage, you got rid of that Death Toucher at least, or that creature, the creature that you lost, back into your graveyard again, or you got it back to your hand, or you got it back to your battlefield, or you can get it back from the graveyard and another turn or whatnot. So there's always other options, like speed and efficiency again. Like, know what you're going to play. Okay, am I going to play something in my second main phase, like Morag, Fury of Akoum, that basically, when I play a land on that second main phase, I'll get an extra combat. That's really good. I don't want to put my Morag out onto the battlefield before my first combat, because if I do that, then everyone might know that I'm going to go to have another combat. So they might try to kill it before I go to my first combat. So what I want to do is I want to go to my first combat, just do that combat, get it over with, then go to my second main phase, then play the Morag, and then say, okay, cool, I'm going to play a land and then get the trigger for the extra combat. Now they can't stop me from taking that extra combat. They can kill my Morags in the same way as what they would have done in theory if I had just okay, cool, I play Morag before my first combat and then go to combat. Somebody could still kill it, maybe they won't, or maybe they can't, but again, the options are less when you go for the play that is okay, cool, it's pretty much guaranteed, unless somebody has a counter spell, that when I cast Morag, I will get to play a land in my second main phase, because I didn't play a land in my first main phase, because I knew that I had Morag, I knew that I had this card that I wanted to play later, and that's why I didn't play that land. So I knew I was saving it for this, whatnot, and therefore I'm going to play that land, and now I'm going to take an extra combat. Now no one can stop me from taking that extra combat. So they can stop me having the Morag and taking future extra combats, but they can't stop me from taking that extra combat right here, right now. So that's really good for me. Because again, maybe even if that Morag is dead, maybe that extra combat wins me the game. So just knowing what you're doing, am I going to sit here and pass? How much single target removal do I have in my hand? Do I have one or two kill spells? Do I have Swords to Plowshares and Nature's Claim, let's say? Those are both 1 mana each. Again, that's why the lower CMC or mana value spells are the better spells to be okay, well, I don't have to save too much of my mana on my opponent's turns. If they have something, I have 3 or 4 mana, whatever, lying around. That's fine, that's probably enough. And maybe I don't have to worry about anything on their turns, but I don't, sometimes I'll just tap out. Again, that's my decision. Okay, I'm tapping out. I don't care what they've got right now. I'm going to go to try to Alpha Strike and win. That's my plan. If my plan goes awry, then it goes awry. This is what I'm doing. I don't really care. Let's just see what happens, and let's have fun, Sometimes that's the thing, it's not always about the most optimal thing, it's just about going, well, I know that this isn't the most optimal thing, but this is what I want to do, and this is how I've planned to do it. If you've got that plan to do it, like I said, the Morag plan, okay, my first combat isn't actually lethal, but if I had 2 combats, wait a minute, now it's lethal. So if I have that Morag, as I said, wait a minute, now I've got 2 combats, so therefore I can make my my combat lethal, or at least lethal to one person, probably. If you can't do that by that point, it's pretty pretty weird that you can't kill one person. Like, usually you'll be able to kill most people, but sometimes with shenanigans are happening and whatnot, because there's always weird shenanigans happening in the game. So you never know. And that's the thing. Like, again, paying attention. What's happening? What did my opponent do? Am I knowing what they did? Like, sometimes people's turns can be very boring as well. Like, either they'll be doing stuff that, just irrelevant sort of stuff, like whatnot. But sometimes it will be. And, like, again, like, this is the same thing about, like, attacking or blocking. Alright, cool. Do they have creatures on their board? How many things should I leave back? How many things should I try to block their stuff with? Does their stuff have trample? Does their stuff have flying? Knowing what I'm going to do, am I just going to take whatever damage that they're sending at me? Yep, that's cool. I don't care. Cool, whatever. That's fine. I'm just going to take the damage. That's fine. I'm still at a fair life total. Like, again, even if that was a bit of a goof on your part, know what you're doing. Don't just be like, oh, well, will I block? Won't I block? Know that you're not going to block already. Just be like, okay, I'm not going to block. Or I'm going to block. And roughly what you're going to block. You never know what somebody's going to have again sometimes. But again, you can't predict everything, and you can only do the best with what information you have is on the battlefield or what knowledge you've gained. Like, that's another thing. Like, memory. Memory is a huge thing about, like, the game. Did you see that, like, somebody had abundance and they happened to reveal something like they called non-land, and they revealed like End-Raze Forerunners or Craterhoof Behemoth like several turns ago, and wait a minute, they have a huge board full of stuff and they have 7 mana. Oh, that means that Craterhoof might be coming next turn. Just like those little things, like, oh, I remember I saw that he drew that, or I saw that it was on the top of his deck, so therefore he must have drawn it. So therefore it must be in its hand, and oh, he has the mana to cast it next turn. So yeah, that's a big threat that he's got in his hand. Or, whatever it is, Nyx Blue Mage, or whatever. If you ever have any revealed information, quote unquote, like that, and that's why I don't like revealed information, but it does happen from time to time. So one of those things is like, yes, like, oh, I remember that he drew a kill spell or a counter spell, or I remember what he drew. Like, maybe you can't remember, but that's one of those things. You just be like, oh, well, I know he has something, and I know it's not good for me that he has it. Like, and that's another thing about knowing what cards are and what cards do, and why you should be, like, thinking, okay, that's not a good card that I want them to have. If it's just like, oh yeah, they revealed they had Llanowar Elves. Well, like, oh well, I know they've got Llanowar Elves or whatever in their hand. Whoop, big whoop, like, kind of thing. But again, sometimes that can be helpful, especially if they've got 2 cards or maybe even 1 card in hand. Like, you go, wait a minute, let me just look at your board there, and just like, oh, I don't see that they have their Llanowar Elf out on the battlefield. So what they have in hand, I think, is their Llanowar Elf. Even though they might be representing a counter spell or a kill spell or something like that, you might go, wait a minute, I know he drew a Llanowar Elves. And even if you say, oh, can I look at your graveyard for a second and just check there as well, and be just like, it's not in his graveyard. I don't think he shuffled it back into his deck. I don't think it went back into his deck at any time. So he must just have a Llanowar Elves in his hand. He's trying to bluff me out. Like, dude, wait, this is not going to work. I know you've got a Llanowar Elf. Things like this. So it just can be, like, so helpful just to have that bit of, like, wait a minute, I knew he drew in a Llanowar Elf or something, a couple turns ago. And now his hand's down to 1, and these Llanowar Elves is nowhere to be seen on his battlefield or his graveyard. And I don't think it got shuffled in. So the one card that he's got left must be his Lenorel. Must be. Like, it might not be. Somehow you might have missed something or whatnot, and that does happen from time to time. But again, if you're paying attention, for the most part, it won't happen. Like, you can still have fun and make jokes and talk and whatnot and still be paying attention. Like, I do that all the time. I'm talking and carrying on and whatnot and having fun and whatnot, but I still know exactly what my opponents are doing because I'll often interact with exactly what they're doing and make jokes and puns and things like this about what they're doing and things like that because, you know, that helps me, frame it. And it sort of also helps the other people sort of, if I'm like, oh no, he's got a Nixbloom ancient or something like that, like, oh no, things like this. And if I'm playing it up, it can be a lot of fun. And he'll be like, haha, yes, I have Nixbloom ancient, bow before me, and things like this. So, like, I will have all the mana, like, and whatnot. It's fun for them to be like, yes, I have all the mana, or I will have all the mana, or whatnot. But then it's like, oh, okay, cool, quick, kill it. kill it. And everyone else, quick, kill it. And things like this. So it does draw attention to it, and it does make it like, ooh, we need to think about doing something about that, guys. So, it's always part of the game, like if I'm talking about what somebody's playing, if somebody plays like their Teferi, I go, so you're trying to exile my cards, are you? Or you're trying to take all the turns, are you? Things like this, like always trying to like surmise what somebody's doing with the card because, like if somebody's playing a deck like that, they're not playing those Planeswalkers just to tick up. They're not playing Planeswalkers or whatnot for the most part just for a card draw. Yeah, sure, that might be the main thing that they're there for. They might be like, yeah, it's there for card draw or whatnot. But realistically, if you have a Planeswalker, you're not just counting on that card draw. Yes, you might be to a degree. That might be the main thing, as I sort of said. But you're putting that Planeswalker in there because it's a Planeswalker and it can do a lot more for you. And the ultimates of a lot of Planeswalkers are usually backbreaking, if not just game winning. So, yeah, certainly when you're like looking at what somebody's doing and going or making decisions and saying, well, am I going to attack you or am I going to attack your Planeswalkers? If I don't attack you, I'm not making you lose life. But if I'm not attacking your Planeswalkers, then I might just be dead to your Planeswalkers. So balancing these things out and making, there's all kinds of tough decisions that are in the game, like, and sometimes you just don't have any real way to, like, answer things. And sometimes, like, again, like, player removal is removal of their permanents as well. So sometimes you're just like, well, at this point, I can kill you, and I don't really need to kill your Planeswalkers, because if I kill you, your Planeswalkers are dead with you. So I don't really need to worry about your Planeswalkers. I need to just kill you. In killing you, I'll kill your Planeswalkers. If I just kill your Planeswalkers, then sure, your Planeswalkers are dead, but you might be able to get them back later. I might as well just kill you and sort of try to win. More so, like, sometimes it can be unfun to be, like, having to put yourself into those situations or make those decisions a little bit, but again, you've got to make those decisions. So, again, I can only offer so many little things, and I would love to offer a lot more things, but you guys have to help me to offer you guys those things. You can tell me some of the things that, you might find difficult about the game, and I can try to give you help and give you suggestions and tips and whatnot about the game to help you guys make better gameplay decisions and whatnot. That's why I've put all these different bits of content out there on my channel, and there's so many other bits of content out there that are very similar in sort of similar veins, essentially, like threat assessment and things like this and whatnot. So again, there's all that kind of stuff out there. So again, we all try to do our best to try to do this sort of thing, but I really have that moment of being like, I remember when I first started playing this game, but I was already established as a player in playing this game when I started playing EDH Borceau. So that was, again, a different, part and parcel of the game aspect to me. But again, I was always more of a casual player anyway. Yeah, sure, I will run removal and whatnot, and I do, what I want to do in the game for the most part. I'm focused on, again, that proactive game plan of like, this is what I'm doing, but these are also some of the things that I will use to stop my opponents from, taking over the game. Not just, I will stop my friends from playing the game entirely. No, I will stop them when they're going to win. Not just, I will play Stony Silence and no one will do anything and I will kill them maybe next week. I don't know. Or whatnot, from milling or something, whatever. So, like, I'm very focused on those sorts of things of, like, knowing what it's like to get into the game. And I got into probably the worst part of it, just for me and the way I want to play. So I think it's better for people, again, that just are casual people. Like, I want to pull out my deck and, shuffle up and play, and that's it. And I just want to have fun with my friends or fun with people wherever I can get a game. So, guys, if you have an issue, if you have something you want to work on, if you want tips, tricks, whatever it is from me to help you with your, getting into EDH and playing this game better, tell me what your issues are. I'll try to put the stuff together. Like, if I haven't done a specific video, tell me what it is that you guys want to know about, what questions you have, all that stuff. Write your thoughts down there in the comments below. I'll be sure to try to respond to all of your comments. I really do enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about all the geeky things that we love. And yeah, I'll see you down there in the comments below, or I'll see you in the next one. Hey, you've just finished watching one of our videos. A bunch of other videos are popping up on your screen now for you to check out, so why not check them out?